During dinner, my wife whispered that she was in love with another man. All I said was, "Good to know." That same night, I withdrew the $80,000 I had invested in her business, terminated our agreement to buy a house, and found a new place to live. Within 3 days, her new lover was on the phone, pleading with me for assistance. I'm a 34-year-old software engineer with a comfortable salary and solid credit. While I don't lead a lavish lifestyle, I've always valued being ready for anything, whether financially or emotionally. My wife, Chloe, is 30. When we first connected, she was working in retail while completing her studies in fashion design. Her ambition was what drew me to her. She possessed a unique vision and a creative energy that fueled her belief she could launch her own fashion label from the ground up. I held that dream in such high regard that I committed to helping her achieve it. Throughout our 6 years together, for of which we were married, I paid off her student loans, handled our rent for months when she was unemployed, and invested approximately $80,000 into her startup venture over time. Her aspirations were grand, and I wanted to share her conviction. She wasn't manipulative, at least not in the beginning. She was simply an optimist who struggled with finances. I was the one who understood numbers, she was the one who generated ideas. I operated behind the scenes, ensuring our insurance was paid, taxes were filed, credit remained pristine, and bills were settled on schedule while she chased her dream. I believed we were a formidable team. About a year ago, she brought up the idea of purchasing a home. She had found a modern house that she adored, with large windows in a quiet area and a reasonable commute for us both. She expressed a desire for the property to be solely in her name, explaining that she wanted to own something that was truly hers. I wasn't bothered by the idea, understanding the symbolism she was after. Even so, I took precautions. The loan was in both of our names, and I quietly secured legal safeguards for myself, not out of distrust, but because I am not someone who takes risks without a safety measure. Then, around 6 months back, a change began to occur. It was subtle at first, more work functions than usual, weekend getaways with friends that started at strange times and ended later than planned. She bought new clothes that she never wore in my presence and angled her phone away when texting. I chose not to confront her. Jealousy isn't in my nature, but I took note of the changes. She grew irritable over minor issues and forgot our private jokes. We ate together less frequently. Our physical intimacy dwindled to perhaps once a month, and even then, her mind seemed to be elsewhere. There was never a major confrontation or any harsh words exchanged, just an expanding void between us. One evening, we were eating dinner, just some leftover pasta with the television murmuring in the background. She set down her fork and stated, as casually as if commenting on the weather, that she loved someone else. I didn't look at her immediately. I finished my mouthful, drank some water, and then met her gaze. She wasn't weeping or angry, she looked relieved, as though the confession had unburdened her. "Good to know," I replied. A muscle in her face twitched, my reaction was clearly not what she had anticipated. I suspect she was braced for a dramatic outburst, shouting, or tears. Instead, I just gave a nod, got up, and began to clear our dishes. She observed me for a moment, bewildered, before softly suggesting we needed some space and that she might stay with a friend. I told her that would be fine. What she was unaware of was that I already knew about him. He was a photographer she had met at a workshop the previous autumn. I had accidentally seen their messages when she had left her laptop open. She described him as a rare soul who truly understood her. I didn't say anything at the time. I've always been a person who observes and waits rather than reacts. That night, after she departed with a small bag, I sat at my desk and accessed every financial account we held together. The house was eerily silent after her departure, with only the ticking of the clock and the glow of my laptop for company. I started with the house purchase. While we hadn't finalized the closing, my co-signature on the application gave me leverage. A brief call to our mortgage broker the following morning was all it took to remove my name from the deal. I simply explained that our relationship status had changed, and they were understanding. Chloe couldn't secure the loan on her own with her fluctuating income and a credit score that was still recovering. By noon, our pre-approval was nullified. Next was the capital for her business. I had the investment agreement stored in a folder labeled for taxes and legal documents. When she had requested my investment in her fashion line, I had a private contract drafted that permitted me to retract my funds at any point prior to our official marriage filing. She had signed it after barely glancing at the first page. I never thought I would use it, but I disliked leaving things to fate. I activated that clause that evening, dispatching notifications to the payment services and her suppliers. In less than a day, the money was reclaimed. It wasn't stolen, it was simply returned to its origin. The suppliers who depended on that capital suspended her orders, bringing production to a standstill. Finally, I accessed my employee benefits account. Chloe was covered under my health insurance as a domestic partner, as we had not yet legally filed our marriage certificate. I removed her as a dependent, a change that took effect instantly. My actions weren't driven by rage. In truth, I felt a sense of clarity, as if emerging from a haze I hadn't realized I was in. By the second day, her friend sent me a text, asking if I'd heard from Chloe. I replied that we had spoken, which was technically correct. On the third day, I was gone. I packed my essentials, had my mail rerouted to a P.O. box, and left. I didn't make a scene or leave a farewell note. I simply arranged for a short-term rental across town and began working remotely. She had always mentioned needing space to find herself, now she had it. That afternoon, my phone rang with an unfamiliar number. I let it go to voicemail. The message was from him, the photographer. His voice was unsteady as he explained that things had become too serious too quickly, and that Chloe was spiraling. He said she was crying constantly and blaming him for wrecking her life. He asked if I could reason with her, or perhaps even take her back until she was more stable. I did not reply. That evening, she appeared at our old home. The doorbell camera captured her standing on the porch, wearing the same sweatshirt from our Sunday coffee outings, sobbing. She eventually departed. A couple of hours later, a text arrived, *I made a mistake. He's not who I thought he was. He thinks my business is dumb. He laughed at my mood board *. Another message followed, *please, just talk to me. We can fix this. I miss you *, but there was nothing left to fix. The following morning, she called again and again, even from her mother's phone. I didn't answer. A lengthy email arrived later, filled with apologies and justifications. She claimed she never intended to fall for someone else and assumed I would always be her safety net while she explored her feelings. She wrote about missing our shared routines, the way I folded her clothes, and my memory for small details, like how she preferred her eggs. It's strange how those things become important when your alternative plan falls apart. But this was about more than infidelity. It was about the months of emotional distance, the gradual withdrawal, and the realization that while I was still committed to our life together, she was already trying out my replacement. The dream house was lost. Without my income and credit, the lender withdrew the offer. Her startup was collapsing as vendors backed out and her manufacturer cancelled production. She had no job with benefits, no savings to fall back on, and now, no health insurance. I was no longer angry or even sad. I had spent so much time investing in her on every level, only to discover I was merely the foundation she presumed would always be there to support her. When she learned the house was gone, she returned. I didn't open the door, but I could hear her outside, shouting and then crying on the steps. After nearly an hour, she left. Later that night, a new message appeared, *You're trying to ruin my life*. I read it and said aloud to the empty room, I didn't ruin your life. I just stopped financing the version of it where I was being used. She reached out to our mutual friends, some of whom called me. I told them the unvarnished truth. A few were taken aback, others confessed they had suspected something was wrong. A week later, a forwarded email confirmed her startup was officially finished. 2 months after that, I heard she had quietly moved back in with her parents. As for me, I continued on. I found a smaller apartment, adopted a dog, and started hiking more often. I never spoke ill of her or sought to damage her reputation. I had no need for revenge. I just needed to stop pretending it was acceptable to be treated as a safety net while she pursued a fantasy. Some might say I was cold in my response. But when someone unilaterally ends a partnership while expecting you to hold the rope, sometimes the most honest thing you can do for both of you is simply to let go.